The moment Sophia Chen's body hit the hardwood stage, the laughter that erupted from the audience shattered something inside her that would take months to repair. Her violin, a cherished instrument passed down from her grandmother, slid across the polished floor before coming to rest at the edge of the stage. One string snapped and dangling like a broken promise. In that devastating instant, with hundreds of eyes watching and dozens of phones recording, 15-year-old Sophia learned how quickly a moment of anticipated triumph could transform into the most humiliating experience of her young life. She hadn't seen the foot extended from behind the curtain. Her mind had been elsewhere, focused on the complex fingerings of Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto, a piece considerably beyond the typical repertoire of high school performers. Principal Richardson had introduced her as Westlake High's rising star, words that had made her heart swell with pride seconds before it was crushed beneath the weight of collective mockery. As she lay sprawled on the stage, the initial hush that fell over the auditorium might have been bearable. It was the laughter that followed, first a few isolated snickers, then growing like a wave until it seemed to fill every corner of the space, that carved itself permanently into her memory. From her position on the floor, she could see Amber Williams and her friends in the third row, not even attempting to hide their delight, phones raised high to capture her humiliation. "Get up, Chan!" someone called from the darkness, triggering another round of laughter. Ms. Abernathy, the music director, rushed onto the stage, her face a mask of concern that only amplified Sophia's mortification. The woman's hand on her elbow, helping her to her feet, felt like a brand marking her as pathetic. Sophia's knees had been scraped raw through her tights, tiny beads of blood beginning to seep through the black fabric. The physical pain was nothing compared to the knowledge that her moment, the one she had practiced 5 hours daily for, had been stolen. "We can restart," Ms. Abernathy whispered, retrieving the violin and assessing the damage. "I'll announce." "No," Sophia interrupted, her voice barely audible. The thought of facing that audience again, of seeing the smirking faces of classmates who had been tormenting her since freshman year for being the orchestra freak, was unbearable. Without waiting for a response, she turned and fled through the stage door, the sound of continued laughter and Ms. Abernathy calling her name fading as she ran down the empty hallway. In the bathroom, she locked herself in the furthest stall, sank to the floor, and pressed her forehead against the cool metal partition. Her breathing came in ragged gasps as tears burned trails down her cheeks. The spring recital had been her chance to prove herself, to show everyone that all those lunch periods spent practicing instead of socializing had been worth it. Now it was ruined. The bathroom door creaked open. Sophia pulled her feet up, wrapping her arms around her knees to make herself invisible. "Sophia." It was Emma, a sophomore cellist. "Ms. Abernathy sent me to check on you." Silence. "Everyone knows it was Amber and Zach who tripped you. Mr. Caldwell is talking to them now." But it was too late. The damage was done. Even if they received detention, nothing could erase the videos that were undoubtedly already circulating through social media, or repair what had broken inside her when she heard that laughter. "Just tell her I went home," Sophia finally replied, her voice hollow. When Emma left, Sophia texted her mother, who arrived 20 minutes later. The walk through the parking lot, past groups of students still lingering after the recital, was an exercise in invisibility. Sophia kept her head down, hood pulled over her face, but she couldn't block out the whispers and occasional snickers. "Oh, honey," her mother said when they were safely in the car, reaching to touch Sophia's face. Sophia flinched away. "Can we just go? Please." That night, Sophia shut herself in her room, ignoring her parents' gentle knocking. She placed her damaged violin in its case and slid it under her bed, out of sight. The instrument that had once been her voice, her solace, her identity, now felt like a symbol of everything she had lost. On her phone, notifications poured in, some messages of sympathy from fellow orchestra members, but mostly links to videos with captions like, "Violin freak faceplant," and "Orchestra dork gets what she deserves." By midnight, the principal hashtag associated with her fall had over 3,000 views. Sophia methodically blocked every account, deleted her social media apps, then curled into a ball on her bed, her body physically present but her spirit somewhere far away, retreating to a place where the laughter couldn't reach her. When morning came, Sophia told her parents she was sick. They didn't argue. By the third consecutive day of her self-imposed isolation, however, her father gently insisted she couldn't hide forever. "The longer you stay away, the harder it will be to go back," he said, sitting on the edge of her bed. But Sophia wasn't ready. The thought of walking those hallways, facing those smirks, hearing the whispers, it was too much. The violin remained under her bed, untouched. The passion that had once defined her existence had been replaced by a dull, persistent ache of humiliation and the certainty that she would never perform again. What Sophia couldn't yet know was that this moment of devastating public failure would eventually become the catalyst for her most significant triumph. But first, she would have to find the courage to pick up her violin and face the stage once more. 2 weeks after the incident, Sophia's violin still lay untouched beneath her bed. Her parents had managed to convince the school to allow her to complete assignments remotely, citing the viral nature of the incident as creating a hostile environment. But isolation, while providing temporary relief, was beginning to create its own kind of pain. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, an unexpected visitor arrived. Ms. Abernathy stood on their doorstep, clutching a folder of sheet music and wearing a determined expression that made Sophia want to retreat further into the house. 5 minutes, the music teacher said when Sophia reluctantly let her in. "That's all I'm asking." They sat in the living room, an uncomfortable silence stretching between them until Ms. Abernathy spoke. "I failed you that night," she said simply. "I should have anticipated something might happen, given the history with those students." Sophia stared at her hands. "It doesn't matter now." "It does." Ms. Abernathy leaned forward. "Because what happened on that stage isn't the end of your story with music, Sophia. Not unless you choose to make it so." "I can't go back there," Sophia whispered, the mere thought sending a wave of nausea through her. Everyone saw. Everyone laughed. "Not everyone," Ms. Abernathy corrected gently. "And those who did, well, they revealed more about themselves than about you." She placed the folder on the coffee table between them. "The Westlake Community Arts Center is hosting a summer mentorship program. 6 weeks working with musicians from the State Symphony. I've recommended you." Sophia looked up sharply. "Why would you do that? I can't even pick up my violin anymore." "Because talent like yours doesn't disappear with one fall, no matter how public." Ms. Abernathy stood to leave. "The program starts next Monday. It's across town. No one from Westlake will be there. Just think about it." After she left, Sophia stared at the folder for a long time before finally opening it. Inside was information about the program, and beneath that, a handwritten note. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's playing through the trembling." That night, for the first time since the recital, Sophia reached under her bed and pulled out her violin case. Her father had already had it repaired, the broken string replaced, though she hadn't been ready to see it until now. Her fingers trembled as she lifted the instrument, the familiar weight both comforting and terrifying. She didn't play that night, but she held it. It was a start. The Community Arts Center was housed in a converted warehouse, all exposed brick and towering windows. On her first day, Sophia arrived early, heart pounding as she clutched her violin case like a shield. The program director, Mr. Levine, a retired concert violinist with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner, greeted her without a hint of pity. "Ms. Abernathy tells me you have a gift for Mendelssohn," he said, leading her to a small practice room. "Let's hear it." Panic flashed through Sophia. I can't play that piece anymore." Mr. Levine studied her for a moment. "Then play something else. Anything." Sophia raised her violin with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. The first notes she produced were scratchy and hesitant, nothing like the confident sound she'd once commanded. Shame burned through her. "Stop," Mr. Levine said after less than a minute. Sophia lowered her instrument, tears threatening. "Your technique is still there," he observed. "It's your confidence that's broken." Over the following weeks, Mr. Levine rebuilt Sophia's relationship with her violin piece by piece. He started her with simple exercises, focusing on technique rather than performance. He never mentioned the video, which had eventually reached him through other students, but he understood its shadow. Playing for yourself and playing for others require different kinds of courage, he told her one afternoon. Right now, we're just working on the first kind. Gradually, Sophia began to reconnect with the joy music had once brought her. In the safety of the Arts Center, away from the memories of Westlake High, she found herself looking forward to practice again. The other students in the program knew nothing of her humiliation. To them, she was just another talented musician working to improve. During the fourth week, Mr. Levine introduced a new challenge. Next Friday, we're hosting a small recital for families and friends of the program, he announced. Each of you will perform a short piece. Sophia's newly rebuilt confidence wavered. I don't think I'm ready for that. You won't be performing for them, Mr. Levine said quietly, so only she could hear. You'll be performing for yourself, to prove that you can. That night, Sophia sat at her desk, staring at the framed photo she'd recently returned to its place. Herself at age 7, holding her first quarter-size violin, beaming with pride. What would that little girl think of her now, allowing fear to dictate her relationship with music? Slowly, deliberately, she opened her laptop and, for the first time since the incident, searched for the video of her fall. It had accumulated thousands more views. Comments ranged from mockery to pity, neither of which she wanted. But watching it now, weeks later, she saw something different. A girl who had dared to attempt something difficult, who had been sabotaged not because she lacked talent, but because others felt threatened by it. The realization didn't erase the pain, but it shifted something within her. The laughter no longer seemed directed at her failure, but at the small-mindedness of those who couldn't understand her passion. The night of the small recital arrived. Behind the curtain of the Arts Center's modest performance space, Sophia peeked out at the audience of about 30 people, parents, siblings, a few local music enthusiasts. No one from Westlake, just as Ms. Abernathy had promised. Mr. Levine approached, adjusting his bow tie. Second thoughts. Sophia took a deep breath. No, I need to do this. When her name was called, she walked onto the stage, positioned her violin, and closed her eyes. For a terrifying moment, the memory of laughter threatened to overwhelm her. But then she began to play, a simple, poignant Brahms lullaby rather than the ambitious Mendelssohn, and something magical happened. The music carried her away from the memory and back to herself. The applause when she finished was warm and genuine. Not thunderous, not a standing ovation, but real appreciation for a piece well played. As she took a small bow, Sophia felt a tear slide down her cheek. Not from shame this time, but from the profound relief of reclaiming a piece of herself she had feared was lost forever. That night, as she carefully placed her violin back in its case, she didn't slide it under the bed. Instead, she left it out, visible, a reminder that what had been broken could be mended, and sometimes made stronger at the broken places. The journey back to herself wasn't complete, but Sophia had taken the crucial first steps. The stage, once a place of humiliation, was becoming a place of healing. And somewhere in the distance, though she couldn't yet see it clearly, a greater triumph awaited. The summer program ended with a bittersweet farewell. Sophia had found sanctuary in the Community Arts Center. But September loomed, bringing with it the inevitable return to Westlake High for her senior year. The thought still triggered a flutter of anxiety, but it no longer paralyzed her. You've come too far to retreat now, Mr. Levine told her during their final session. He handed her a flyer that she initially tried to refuse. The Young Artists Competition. It's held at Westlake Performing Arts Center, the same stage where she had fallen. I can't, Sophia said automatically, pushing the flyer back. Can't? No. Won't? Perhaps. Mr. Levine fixed her with the penetrating gaze that had become familiar over their weeks together. But consider this. That stage holds power over you only if you allow it to. At home, Sophia pinned the flyer to her bulletin board but avoided looking at it directly. The competition was still months away, late November. She had time to decide. Her return to school was both better and worse than expected. The viral moment of her fall had been largely forgotten, replaced by summer scandals and new gossip. Still, there were whispers when she walked into the orchestra room for the first time, and Amber Williams made a point of sticking her foot out slightly as Sophia passed, just enough to make her stumble. "Problem with your balance?" Amber asked innocently, her friends giggling. Instead of retreating, Sophia found herself thinking of Mr. Levine's words about reclaiming her power. She straightened her shoulders and looked directly at Amber. "Not anymore," she replied steadily, before taking her seat in the first violin section. Ms. Abernathy welcomed her back with a warm smile and a challenging new piece for the fall concert. To Sophia's surprise, several younger orchestra members approached her in the following weeks, seeking help with difficult passages. "You're the best violinist in school," a freshman named Lily told her matter-of-factly. "Everyone knows that, even the people who pretend not to." October arrived, bringing college application deadlines. Sophia had once dreamed of music conservatory, but had abandoned those plans after the incident. Now, tentatively, she began to reconsider. Ms. Abernathy offered to help prepare her audition recordings. And, the teacher added carefully, a competition win would strengthen your application considerably. The young artist's competition flyer, now dog-eared from Sophia repeatedly taking it down and putting it back up, seemed to grow more insistent. The application deadline was approaching. "I don't know if I'm ready," Sophia confessed to her parents over dinner. "For the competition or for that stage?" her father asked gently. Sophia pushed her food around her plate. "Both, Heather." Her mother reached across the table to take her hand. "Whatever you decide, we're with you. But remember what your grandmother used to say about her violin, that every scratch tells a story," Sophia finished, smiling faintly. Her grandmother's violin, now hers, bore the marks of decades of playing, each imperfection a testament to perseverance. That night, Sophia submitted her application for the Young Artists competition. The following weeks were a blur of intense practice. She chose the Mendelssohn Concerto again, a deliberate reclaiming of the piece that had been interrupted. Ms. Abernathy worked with her during lunch periods and after school, refining passages until they sang with emotion. "You play it differently now," the teacher observed during one session. "There's something in your interpretation that wasn't there before." Sophia nodded, understanding. The music had been transformed by her experience, infused with a depth that could only come from having lost and found her way back to it. As November progressed, so did whispers about the competition. Amber, who had also entered, made a point of practicing loudly whenever Sophia was nearby, throwing smug glances her way. But the intimidation tactics that once would have devastated Sophia now barely registered. Her focus had shifted inward, to the music itself and what she wanted to express through it. The night before the competition, Sophia couldn't sleep. She stood at her bedroom window, looking out at the quiet street, remembering the girl who had fled that stage in tears months ago. She was still that girl in some ways, still sensitive, still sometimes haunted by the sound of laughter. But she was also someone new, someone who had learned that falling didn't mean staying down. The Westlake Performing Arts Center was packed when Sophia arrived the next day. The Young Artists competition was a significant event in the local music community, drawing participants and audience members from several surrounding towns. Backstage, the atmosphere crackled with nervous energy as performers warmed up and adjusted their formal attire. Sophia, wearing a deep purple dress her mother had helped her choose, found a quiet corner to prepare. She had drawn the penultimate performance slot, just before Amber, who had somehow managed to secure the coveted final position. As she tuned her violin, a shadow fell across her. Looking up, she found Zach Evans, one of the boys who had tripped her at the recital, standing uncomfortably nearby. "What do you want?" Sophia asked, her voice steady despite the sudden racing of her heart. Zach shifted his weight. He stopped, started again. "I'm running sound today, for community service hours." He paused. "I wanted to say I'm sorry, about before. It was stupid and mean and..." He shrugged helplessly. "Yeah, that's all." Before Sophia could respond, he hurried away, leaving her to process the unexpected apology. It didn't erase what had happened, but it loosened something tight within her chest. One by one, performers took the stage. Sophia peeked through the curtain, her eyes drawn inevitably to the exact spot where she had fallen. From the wings, she could see the slight scuff on the polished wood, almost imperceptible unless you knew to look for it. Sophia Chun, performing Mendelssohn's Violin Concerto in E minor, the announcer called finally. The walk across the stage felt both endless and instantaneous. A hush fell over the audience as Sophia positioned herself, her violin at the ready. In the third row, the same row where Amber and her friends had sat during the recital, Sophia spotted her parents, Mr. Levine, and, surprisingly, a group of younger orchestra members including Lily. For a heartbeat, panic threatened. The memory of laughter seemed to echo in the silent auditorium. Then Sophia closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and began to play. The first notes emerged pure and confident, filling the space with a sweetness that belied the journey behind them. As the piece progressed, Sophia felt herself entering that rare state where musician and music become indistinguishable. Her fingers found each note with certainty, her bow moving as an extension of her arm, her body swaying slightly with the emotional crescendos of the piece. When she reached the passage where she had fallen before, a momentary tremor passed through her. But instead of faltering, she poured that emotion into the music, transforming anxiety into a soaring, transcendent phrase that seemed to lift the audience from their seats. The final movement, with its technical challenges and emotional demands, flowed from her with an assurance that surprised even herself. As she played the concluding notes, Sophia opened her eyes, suddenly aware that she had performed the entire piece in a state of complete absorption. There was a moment of absolute silence when she finished, that breathless pause that comes when an audience has been truly moved. Then, from the back of the auditorium, someone stood. Then another person. Within seconds, the entire audience was on their feet, applause thundering through the space. A standing ovation. Sophia stood frozen, violin still in position, overwhelmed by the response. As she finally lowered her instrument and took a bow, she caught sight of her parents, both openly weeping. Mr. Levine was applauding with fierce pride, and the younger students were jumping up and down, their excitement uncontained. Even more surprising, in the wings, several other competitors stood watching, including Zach, whose face reflected genuine admiration. Only Amber remained apart, her expression a complex mixture of resentment and grudging respect. As the applause continued, showing no signs of diminishing, Sophia took a second bow. This time, she allowed herself to glance at the spot where she had fallen. It was just a place now, no longer a site of humiliation, but simply another point on the stage she had reclaimed. When the results were announced an hour later, Sophia's win was almost anticlimactic. The true victory had come in those moments on stage, in the connection she had reestablished with her music and herself. "You played as though you had something to prove," one judge told her afterward. "Not to prove," Sophia corrected gently. "To recover." In the lobby, surrounded by well-wishers, Sophia found herself face to face with Amber, who had placed third. "Congratulations," Amber said stiffly, offering a reluctant hand. Sophia accepted the handshake, recognizing it for the concession it was. "Thank you. You played beautifully too." As Amber walked away, Lily appeared at Sophia's side. "That was amazing," the freshman gushed. "Will you help me prepare for next year's competition? Please." Looking at the younger girl's eager face, Sophia realized something important. Her journey hadn't just been about personal recovery. It had created a ripple effect, showing others what was possible when you refused to let one terrible moment define you. "I'd be happy to," she agreed. Later that night, as her parents drove home, the trophy nestled in Sophia's lap, her father asked what she was thinking. "About how strange it is," Sophia replied, gazing out at the passing streetlights. "If they hadn't tripped me that night, I never would have worked with Mr. Levine. I never would have had to find my way back to music. I never would have played like I did today." "So you're grateful?" her mother asked, surprised. Sophia considered this. Not grateful. But I understand now that sometimes the worst moments can lead to the best ones, if you're brave enough to keep going. At home, she placed the trophy on her desk, beside the photo of her 7-year-old self. Then she carefully returned her grandmother's violin to its case, not hiding it away this time, but protecting something precious that had been lost and found, broken and mended, and made stronger through the breaking. Tomorrow there would be college applications to complete, recommendations to request, a future in music to pursue. But tonight, Sophia simply savored the knowledge that she had faced her greatest fear and discovered that on the other side of it lay her greatest triumph. Sometimes, she thought as she drifted towards sleep, the most powerful thing you can do is simply show up again.